Hi, I'm Nyesha McCauley, and you're watching accesstv.org.
Good morning and welcome to the challenge. As always, first and foremost, I'd like to thank God for another opportunity and thank you, the viewers, for tuning in. I want to first start by thanking my guest this morning for agreeing to return. I know it's been a while, but time flies. But he is here and he's going to share with us what's been happening with him and what's been happening with him as it pertains to the community with us this morning. Welcome, Steve Harris.
Hey, Doc.
Good to see you, man.
Good to be seen, brother.
Yes,
Good to be seen.
There you go, there you go. Steve, former city councilman, former captain of the fire department here in the city of Hartford. Always a great conversation to have, especially with somebody who I believe sincerely has his pulse on the community that we live in. But not just that, but is a very compassionate and very sincere person when it comes to his community and his city. Steve, what do you think, man? What's happening now? I know we can start a number of places, man, but why don't we start with something that's kind of near and dear to you? Let's start with that fire department, man. What's going on there?
Russ, it's really, for me, and other brothers who've been on that job, to kind of read and see the things that are going on. We have, and I tell the young men and women that I counsel, who look for careers in the fire department, who are in the fire department, I said, the day that you get appointed, the day that you put on that uniform, you have to understand that you not only represent a city, but you represent your community.
Absolutely.
And the things that you do will certainly sway one way or the other how people look, not only at the department, but at our community. And hey, listen, man, this is the world that we live in.
Sure,
and I'm not here saying that I've done everything right.
Right.
But I do know this, that every morning when I put that uniform on, it was a sense of pride that I walked.
Yeah.
Because I knew that I represented my community.
Yeah.
Not only the city, but I represented my community. And I just think that today, and I always tell people, don't go to the fire department just for a job.
Right.
Fire department is a career, and you have to have a passion for it, because ask yourself, how many people run into burning buildings? Most people run out of burning buildings.
Absolutely.
So, you have to have a passion for what you do. And I understand that job can be stressful. I did it for 27 years.
Sure.
I understand that you see things that leave lasting impressions on you.
Sure.
But there's a way to deal with that.
Yes.
We have EAP programs.
EAP,
sometimes
EAP being
employee assistance program.
I got you. Okay.
I remember, when I first went on the job, when you saw horrible things, and as a firefighter, you'll see horrible things.
Oh, absolutely, man.
I mean, the old days, it was you suck it up,
right.
And you get through it.
Right.
Now, when you see horrible things, I mean, they have counselors come around.
Right.
Because we all understand how that can affect you.
Right.
Same thing if you have any kind of substance abuse problem.
Right.
There's EAP program.
Right.
But again, bottom line is this, that we're all responsible for our actions, our deeds and actions.
Absolutely.
And when you come to work, the expectation is that you come to work ready to work.
Absolutely.
And that you're in the right frame of mind. Because bottom line is, not only are we there to protect life and property, we're there to protect each other.
Absolutely.
And if I go down in a fire, I want to know that the person who's beside me can get me out of there.
Oh yeah.
So for me, it's really to be very honest, it's just very disturbing to me.
Yeah. I know. I often say that without public safety, frankly, you don't have a city.
You have chaos.
Yeah, you really do. I mean, so public safety people, fire department, police department, they're ambassadors, if you will, for the city. And frankly, they're kind of the standard bearers, for what takes place within a city. And the recent incidents that have come up, with the fire department, being a young man who has drinking problems and those kinds of things. I know we're all human, so nobody is trying to, at least certainly I'm not trying to suggest that this is something that is we feel is dire, if you will. But certainly it's cause for concern because so many of the folks in Hartford are looking for hope, if you will, and looking for opportunity. So we certainly don't want to squander any opportunities that have been created and that exist for folks. So it was just something that I know you have firsthand experience with, and I thought we'd talk just a little bit about. But let's go a step or two further. I don't know how you feel about Rock Cats, baseball, and all that kind of stuff has some kind of economic catalyst for changing our community. Give us your thoughts on that. I mean, people talk about economic development in this city, but it don't seem to pertain to the north end of Hartford, man. It seems like to me when people talk about those kinds of things that they somehow leaving out the folks who need it the most. What do you think? I mean, because if they've got a plan, if there's a plan for revitalizing the city and for including folks within these urban settings that we live in, it's just not being communicated well as far as I'm concerned.
Well, Russ, it's funny. I was at a meeting yesterday. Well, first of all, let me go back to we'll start with the Rock Cats.
Sure.
I was at Parker Center, and they were coming around talking about the Rock Cats thing because, they keep talking about the North End, that's going to be a stadium in the North End. And I had to say to them, I said, first of all, I live on Cleveland Avenue. I've been there just about all my life.
Right.
North End to me is 06120.
Okay.
06120.
Right.
That's the zip code. Mm-hmm. And I believe 06120 is one of the poorest zip codes in the state.
In the state. In some regards, even the country.
Well, when you start saying that something's going to be in the North End,
right,
and it's at Main and Trumbull, that ain't the North End.
Yeah.
Now, I just, that's downtown.
Right.
That's downtown.
Yeah.
Having said that,
Geographically,
yeah.
Yeah.
Having said that, let me also say this: that if there's one thing that I recognize that we need in Hartford that we don't have, is affordable entertainment for the people that live here.
Right.
That live here.
Right.
I don't get off warm and fuzzy about building things for people that don't live here to come here.
Right.
I'm more concerned with those of us that live here. The Rock Cats is affordable entertainment. I'm all for affordable entertainment, but what I'm not for is building stadiums that I have to pay for. Mm. And I've been very vocal about that. I said, if the Rock Cats want to come here, if they're going to build a stadium with their money, I'm all for that.
Right.
Because we need affordable entertainment for families.
Sure.
Here.
Sure.
People talk about the Whalers. People still crying about the fact that the Whalers left.
Right.
When the Whalers were here, the majority of the people that live here couldn't afford to go to a Whalers game. Let's just be real.
Sure.
Couldn't afford to go to a Whalers game.
Right.
So again, in terms of what the economic benefit is going to be, I think time will tell. If they come,
right,
I think time will tell. Again, we built the Meadows Music Theater. What's the economic boom? I haven't seen. I live again 06120. I can go down the end of my block and look over and see
and hear
it.
Right.
I see folks young folks coming across the bridge go to package stores. I don't see them going to restaurants or the few businesses we have along other than the package stores.
Dave Matthews was a 2-day concert, man. I mean, was it 3 days or 2 days?
2 or 3 days.
And something like that.
Just you get a lot of traffic.
Yeah.
I guess the folks that down in that Meadows area do well. But I mean, as far as that going over the hill, down on the Windsor and North Main, other than the package store, I didn't really see that boom. But again, you know, for me, as I said, I'm for affordable entertainment, but I just don't want to pay for it. As a taxpayer, as a person that pays a property tax bill, I don't want to see my mill rate go up.
Of course not.
And if building this stadium means that our mill rate is going to go, which is the highest in the state, I'm not for that. I'm not for that. Now they got, you know, resources of their own.
Sure.
Let them invest their resources. You know, and I'd be one of the persons that will buy a couple of season tickets to support that effort. But again, I'm not, as a property owner, prepared to have my tax rate go up in order to have a semi-professional baseball, or any team for that matter here.
Well, what do you say to people who say that one of the reasons, or if not one of the main reasons, the main reason why the north end of Hartford seems not to benefit directly or indirectly from economics that exist in this city and even in this state is because of education? What do you say to folks who say things like that? I mean, there are industries that are here, insurance, if you will, and there is, you know, manufacturers like UTC, and there's a whole bunch of other small businesses that benefit from, you know, those folks who have those industries, and those are Fortune 100 companies. But we don't seem to somehow be able to benefit, at least the north end of Hartford. You know, like you said, one of the poorest places in the state don't seem to benefit from that.
You know, it's right now, and we all can agree that education is probably one of the most important assets that we can have.
Sure.
As a community, as any community
sure.
can have, as an educated community. School is important. But I got to tell you, you know, as a person that graduated from the Hartford public school system, when I got out, I thought I had a pretty basic, good education.
Fundamentals.
Fundamental education.
Yeah.
It seems that from the 70s going forward, we started experimenting with education.
Right.
And, you know, we had, there was a school, sans every school without walls and things like this. Now we have magnet schools, charter schools. Parents are confused.
So schools were basically preparing you for the industries that you were going into.
Again, I went to C.A. Barber. Well, it's C.A. Barber School. Now it's called the Media Journalism Academy on Tower Avenue. It was a K-8 school. When I got promoted into the 7th grade, sure. we started taking shop, industrial arts.
Yeah.
7th and 8th grade.
Yeah.
You know, I worked. We all did that. Went to that school. All the guys because all the guys went to shop. The young ladies went to home economics and typing.
Absolutely.
And, you know, we be down there making little things. You know, you're young, you're 7th grade, 8th grade. You just, you know, you're making something. You bring it home, you put it on your wall, you give it to somebody for Christmas.
Yeah.
When I graduated from Weaver, my first job was at Pratt & Whitney. And I worked on a lathe, the same kind of lathe I worked at Barber School in the 7th and 8th grade. So they were preparing us for the industrial age. They were typing, I mean, because insurance was big, they knew that they needed clerical. I think that today, in order to get a skill like lathe out machinist, you got to go to trade school. I mean, we have to start, if we have to, like now they're saying that health is the new industry, where before it was insurance. Then we need to start preparing our kids
as early as possible.
As early as possible for a career in the health field.
Absolutely.
So I you know,
and they have a responsibility to do that. The industry has a responsibility to do that. If they're gonna you know, use us as customers, eventually we're gonna become customers and use the product or services that they have, then they ought to be willing to train and willing to educate us in those particular areas.
I agree, and we also have to do our part. I mean, we need to, because I'm asked to come to a lot of programs around job readiness,
right?
And you go to these programs and hear folks who are in their 20s and 30s and 40s, and we're talking about job readiness program. Yeah. Job readiness is teach somebody how to get up to get to work on time. Well, it's like everything else. I mean, some things you learn at home,
right?
And if somebody has to teach you how to get up and get to a job on time, you're already at a disadvantage. You're already at a disadvantage. Like I said, the young folk that I counsel that go on the fire department, I said, listen, let me tell you something. There's no such thing, as far as I'm concerned, as being on time. You be early. You be there watching the bosses come in.
Oh, yeah.
Because you know what that does? If something should ever happen and you're late, what they'll say is, well, you know what, Jesus, Steve is usually here watching us get in here. So obviously he must have had, something must have happened.
Sure.
And then when you get in and explain, it's a lot more believable than if you would have, you were the kind of guy that we used to call on the fire department a minute man, where if you were supposed to be in at 8, you was coming up the doggone walkway at 7:59. So again, some things, I mean, we have to take responsibility for. You don't go to a job interview sagging. You know what I'm talking about.
I know what you mean. Wearing your pants behind.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, what kind of job? What kind of,
with your comb stuck in your head.
That's a terrible impression.
Well, let me say this. One of my roles when I was on the fire department was a recruiter, and as a recruiter, I sat on entry-level oral boards where we'd have people looking for jobs in the fire service would take the test, and part of that testing process is taking an oral part of that test. And I've sat on oral panels throughout the state for other fire departments.
Sure.
And when people tell you that, people not supposed to rate you about how you look or what you know, that's a lie. People start forming an opinion of you the minute you open that door, and they look at you, they're starting to form an opinion.
Oh, of course.
And I'm telling you that interview process is very, very important, to the point that there needs to be preparation for that. That's the other thing I've noticed about our young people. Our young people have become so disengaged from social conversation because everything with them is social networking.
Right.
I mean, the strongest muscle on them is their thumbs. Because they texting all the time. They don't look each other in the face when they conversate. Shake a young man's hand. You think you're shaking a wet noodle. My father taught me, you shake a man's hand, it's a firm grip in the firm.
Absolutely.
You look them in the eye when you speak to folks. Absolutely. We've lost that. And I see that when I do these oral interviews.
Right.
You got to look at people when you talk to people.
Absolutely.
And these are things that, again, we need to start preparing our young people for.
As early as when they first enter school.
Yes.
Yeah. Listen, we're going to have to take a real quick break right here, Steve, but we're going to come back. I want to talk a little bit more about our community-based organizations and what they were supposed to be providing and where they're at now, too. I know, there's some concern about some sayings you mentioned. There's some stuff we need to go ahead and put out there. We don't have a problem with sharing it. We're talking about solutions to problems here too, and I'm so glad that you've emphasized some of the things that you have. Give us a minute, and we'll be right back.
Hi, and welcome to AccessTV.org. I'm your host from Shaping the Next Generation, Naima Jackson. Welcome to AccessTV.org. We're your hosts, Naima Jackson.
And I'm Elijah Williams.
Thank you for tuning in to Shaping the Next Generation. Today's special guest is Ms. Vicki Gallen-Clark.
Ms. Vicki will stop by on the show to talk about her role in the Blue Hills Civic.
Now, if you haven't heard about Blue Hills Civic Association, you should definitely look into it. It's located on Asylum. Now, if you don't know anything about Blue Hills, you should know that Blue Hills Civic Association, they will definitely help you get a step forward in your future. They'll help you figure out what you want to be in the future, because they definitely helped me. I figured out what I want my career to be, I figured out what college I want to go to, and I figured out what I want to major in. Blue Hills helped me because they helped me learn how to write a resume, a cover letter. They prepared me for an interview to get a job. Blue Hills Civic Association is definitely the perfect program for our youth today. Now, thank you for joining us on AccessTV.org. I like accesstv.org because they offer us highlights on our local community that you don't get from Channel 3 or Fox News. They also gave us highlights from sports like track and field. So thank you so much for joining us. And all the youth out there, you should definitely join us at Access TV and definitely check out Blue Hills Civic Association, because it will help you, it will motivate you to get out there, look into our programs, and it will help you shape your future.
Thanks for staying tuned into the challenge. We're here with former City Councilman Steve Harris, Captain Steve Harris, Hartford Fire Department. I call him still Cap as far as I'm concerned. He, is one of those voices, man, that I think needs to be heard and is being heard with respects to what happens in his community. Frankly, he I think is so necessary at this point in the development of a city that we ought to be paying particular attention to what's happening with him and what's happening, with the efforts that he puts into trying to make his community better. Cap, we were going to talk a little bit about community-based organizations. Mm-hmm. There are some 100+ social service agencies in the city of Hartford, dealing with all kinds of issues, if you will. Anything from, you name it, mental health to at-risk children. They're all over the lot. But the north end of Hartford, one of the places where the need, if you will, is the greatest in the city and perhaps the country. Two of the community-based organizations, which in my opinion sort of created the way and opened the door for a lot of development of the talent, if you will, within the city, are no longer there. And I'm talking about an organization called One Chain and the other one called SANS. I know when I think about community-based organizations, those are two that I think could not have done enough to really hone in and develop the talent that was around it in those particular areas. But for some reason, they have fell by the wayside. What are your thoughts on that at this point? I know there's no point in talking about, the things that caused the demise, because they just aren't there anymore. Right. The organizations don't exist anymore. But what are the alternatives now? What are the options now for us in our community, if you will, when it comes to trying to develop the talent that exists in those particular areas?
Well, Russell, you said everything you said is true, but I think the most important point that you made was One Chain and SAN really developed young people into leaders.
Absolutely.
The next generation of leaders.
Absolutely.
And with the demise of those two organizations, there now is this gap.
Yeah.
There now is this gap. I mean, they taught a myriad of things, but one of the most important things that they taught and they encouraged was community organizing.
Yeah.
And
yes,
they were a forceful voice.
Yes.
In terms of quality education, quality housing, crime, affordable health care, and things like that. Yeah. And with their demise, there's this kind of void.
Yeah.
And so much so that myself and a small group of folk have gotten together because we recognize that we need to reattach that link.
Absolutely.
And have begun to form. And they formed a corporation called the Wilbur G. Smith Community Development Corporation.
Okay.
And it's in its infancy right now.
Sure.
We're preparing to apply for federal recognition, because you know what? We want to go back to basics. We want to go back to things that make sense in our neighborhood.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
And what we've lost again is that organization that developed the next generation of leaders.
Right.
And that's important.
Absolutely.
Because we cannot afford in our community to have those gaps.
Right.
Have those gaps. It's just like I remember my grandmother who had a third grade education.
A fitting title, by the way, Wilbur G. Smith.
Listen, let me tell you.
I had a chance to meet Wilbur. I know, Wilbur. I can't. He's one of those guys who makes an indelible, mark on you, man. I mean,
he did in my life.
Chance. Yeah, if you ever had a chance to meet him and see him, man, I don't think there are very many people
is outspoken, who wasn't afraid to stand up and challenge the status quo.
Absolutely.
And he wasn't a designer politician.
Yeah.
He was a community politician.
Yeah.
See, we got a lot of guys that put on suits and like to wear pins, but don't speak much. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But Wilbur was that kind of guy, man. When Grants was acting funny downtown, Wilbur went down and did a one-man doggone demonstration down there. Went to jail for it, but you know what?
Yeah.
He stood for people, and he stood for things that were important to people.
Yeah. I just had to pause for a moment to to mention that, because.
But the other thing what people don't realize is Wilbur is the father of the Enterprise Zone bill.
Yeah. See,
which we don't take full advantage of.
And last week we had Councilman Dave McDonald on talking about enterprise districts based upon NRZs, enterprise zones.
Right.
So revitalization zones they're calling them. But absolutely, I mean, so Wilbur's legacy, and I think titling, if you will, the organization or corporation behind Wilbur is a fitting one. I just wanted to pause for a moment and make mention of that fact.
But like I said, it's in its infancy. But trust me, it's going to happen. It's going to happen, and because we need that. We need that because we have to stop looking to other folks all the time to solve our problems.
I agree.
We know how to solve our problems.
I agree.
And we also have to understand that what happens to us only happens to us because we allow it to.
Wow. Those are very poignant, very powerful words to me. Let me tell you, I ran into a brother at the Y about 2 weeks ago. He said he was writing a book on the successes of people who are from Hartford.
There's a bunch of them.
There's a lot. I mean, when he started naming names, and he went, back to Bobby Knight, and he went back to, went all the way forward to Marcus Camby and all of those basketball stars, and there's some actors, and I mean, there's a whole bunch of talent that's in the city. I mean, to me, that's right there in the heart. I mean, right there in our midst, and we're not continuing to develop that. We're not continuing to to highlight that and to emphasize that. To me, I think we miss that opportunity when we don't do those kinds of things.
Well, and when I leave here, I'm going to have another engagement to speak to a group of young people, and we put a lot of emphasis on role models.
Yeah.
And I tell people, man, young people, that in most cases, the biggest role model in your life, whether you realize it or not, is the person that you sit opposite that breakfast table with every day.
Amen.
Your mother or your father.
Amen.
In my case, it was me, my mother, and my grandmother.
Yeah.
They were the greatest influences in my life. And as I said, my grandmother only had a third grade education.
Yeah.
But she was the most wise woman I've ever met.
Yeah.
And we're as I like to say, we're visual people. What we see usually is what we want.
Right.
But I remember my grandmother saying, all that glitters ain't gold. Be careful what you wish for, because it may come true.
Right.
And it won't be what you thought it was going to be.
Right.
So I just and I tell people about the same thing. The people who were born and raised here, many are still here.
Sure.
Now they may not be on TV every day.
There you go.
But you can see what they've done if you just look around you.
Yeah.
If you just look around you, and we need to get back to holding ourselves accountable for stuff.
Yeah.
And I tell people, I said, listen, politics, which drives everything in this town.
Right.
It does. I mean, we'd be naive if we said otherwise.
Yeah.
It's real simple for me.
I just chuckle because
And I tell people, I said, listen, and you know me well. I don't go out and I don't disparage people.
Right.
But the one thing that I tell politicians is that when you stop working for our best interests, I stop working to get rid of you.
Oh, yeah.
Because only thing that we have that we can use as a people together is the power of our voice.
Yeah.
Voting our voice.
That's right.
And when we stop putting our voices out there and we stop putting our vote out there, then these kinds of things keep happening to us. We keep getting, when we get service, sometimes it's just mediocre service.
Yeah.
We got Bank of America about to leave 2 locations in Hartford, in North Hartford.
Right.
The Terry Square on Main Street,
Right.
Main and Kensington, and they're going to close the one up on Blue Hills Avenue. Why would, here's Bank of America, probably got 10,000 branches. Their excuse is, well, we don't get enough depositors there. So you probably get plenty of depositors elsewhere. There's a thing I like to call it being good neighbors.
Right.
What about those seniors that walk down from Tuscan home, that walk to that Bank of America? Now they're supposed to go to Albany Avenue?
Here's a question I have for people politically, and I'm hoping that folks who tune in will share this. While you're recruiting folks for the purpose of economic development, why do they have to be recruited for economic development just in downtown Hartford? Why can't they be recruited to go on Windsor Street, where there is, all kinds of opportunity because of rail and that kind of stuff, for you to do business? Why can't you recruit some of those companies and some of those business opportunities to go into the North End of Hartford? Why can't you do that?
Well, it's almost as if the Republicans say that if you strengthen business, the trickle down effect will be jobs, which hasn't been the case yet. And I think the city operates under that premise. They operate. See, Hartford is made up of city and neighborhoods.
Right.
Now, downtown is a neighborhood. Don't get me wrong.
Right.
But the mere fact that just what you said, we got tracks along Windsor Street.
Right.
That can move goods and services. We have empty warehouses down there. I think we need to, there was a time when remember when the city used to go to Vegas? Vegas would have this convention of manufacturers looking for places to locate their businesses.
Right.
We need to be recruiting businesses that can employ our people.
Well, that's one of the reasons why I think that the Wilbur Smith Community Development Corporation will be successful, because development corporations will be and whomever else is out there will be hopefully trying to bring those kinds of opportunities into an area where they're so desperately needed. Now, I still can't excuse banks and other companies from not doing their work in those communities either, because I think that they have a role to play.
Responsibility.
Yeah, they have a role to play.
Corporate responsibility.
And again, when it comes to education, education in schools is where primary and fundamental education is taught. But there are industries like the insurance industry and banking, if you will, that don't necessarily have classes in public schools. So why not take, the industry and those industries and put them into places where, the people who will use those services can eventually be their customers.
Listen, again, when I hear about schools struggling to get computer labs, in my mind's eye, there should be a computer on every desk in every classroom in the city of Hartford, because everything now is done with computers.
Right.
We just seem to lack for what now become basic kinds of things.
Yeah.
What computers used to be kind of luxury tools. No, man, your telephone is a computer now.
We're on the internet.
Right.
This is internet-based
That's
TV. So,
but you know what? The other thing I want to say is, and I say this all the time, I live in North Hartford, and I'm a proud North End brother. And that's just I'm just a proud North End brother.
Yeah.
I'm not ashamed of living in North Hartford.
Yeah.
You know, when I hear people dogging us, it makes me angry.
Right.
And particularly when I hear people who don't live here dogging us, it really makes me angry.
Right.
So I want us to stop feeling like we're different because we're no different than folks that live any place else.
No.
The difference is we need to understand that our greatest tool is our voice and our vote.
Yeah.
And we stopped exercising those two important things.
Absolutely.
And until you want to get politicians' attention, stop voting folks out of office. You'll get their attention and voting good numbers.
I love what you say, man. When you say the reason why most of what happens to us
we allow it.
is because we allow it.
That's it.
It's because we allow it. It's real simple.
Real simple.
And if that's the wisdom, man, that came across your table, man, man, it's wisdom for the ages, brother. It is. For the ages.
It's not old fashioned stuff. That's just real. That's just basic stuff, man.
Cap, our time is come and gone, man.
Listen, man, you know it's always a pleasure.
Yes, sir. Man, we got to come back. You know, I know it's been a long time. Yeah. I won't make it as long.
No,
you know, I'll reach back out, man. Yeah, because we have to share more. I think that there are more paying attention.
I think so.
Yeah. I just don't know how much of it gets embraced. You just hope that those who are really concerned about the betterment of a people will latch on to some of what we share and can join, man, in the fight, if you will, to help make it better.
If we just continue to remember.
I can't say it no more.
And it really is. I mean, it's just that simple.
It really is. Truly. Captain Steve Harris, former councilman, man, my friend. You know, God bless you, man. Yes, indeed. As always,